What's in your thoughts? Oh, what's in your mind? What fills your head and what leaves it behind? It's too much today. It's too much today.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome back to Filling in the Gaps Re-Rolled. We hope you've had some great gaming since the last time you listened. If you are new, welcome to the table. Like I said, we are Filling in the Gaps Re-Rolled. We may not be an actual play podcast, but we hope that our podcast can help you actually play. We're 3 DMs who create stories or sessions based on a randomized theme and scenario that we roll with 2d20. It's a great way to get our creative juices flowing and flex our DMing muscles, and hopefully halfway through you stop listening and take off on your own tangent to make your own game. With that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm David.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Malcolm.
Right. So to start off our episode today, we're going to go with our question of the week, and that will be, I like that one. What is your favorite source of magic? So we have like sorcerers who have it in their bloodline, kind of the divine casters who get it from a deity or from nature, wizards who are nerds.
I do love how wizards are nerds.
I just like how they have to live on a coast. every game, there's always a wizard on a coast. I have to say, I personally love, well, barring my love for bards, I just love the fact that warlocks have to sign their soul over or some part of themselves to get this magic, but like they don't get that much of it. It's like, you get to choose out of column A and just one from column B. You can do Eldritch Blast or you can do Eldritch Blast. Which one would you like? I know you can do more than that, but I'm just every time it's like I Eldritch Blast from 50 yards, deep, and I'm like, holy, all right, dude.
I mean, they made Eldritch Blast so ridiculously versatile that it's like, if you're not using it, because I tried running a warlock without it, and you can if you're good with warlocks. I am not.
Yeah, it's very doable.
It didn't work well. Yeah, it didn't work well for me, but it is possible. It's just...
My second character I ever played was a warlock, and he was an 800-year-old fearbolg who told a joke in a bar once, and then Lord Heresium was like, "You're funny. We're going to sign a pact because you made me laugh." And he didn't know about it, so he just kept getting older and older because Heresium's like, "I'm going to keep you around until you stop making me laugh." And... So he just say like random stuff being himself, but that's my taste for a warlock. I know you can do a lot of cool stuff, but I just feel like all the time it's just like they point you in the direction of Eldritch Blast, and if you don't take it, people are like, "What are you doing? It's Eldritch Blast is right there." And I was like, "Well, what if you want to do something more funsies?"
No flavor allowed in the warlock world.
I think mine... there's a class in Pathfinder called the Blood Rager, and it's from a book where they basically took a lot of the base classes and combined them, and this one is a barbarian sorcerer. And so the majority of their magic they get from just being angry. I am so mad at you that a fireball blows up. I
love that. Is it Warhammer?
Reminds me of that Men Who Stare at Goats thing, where it was just like so focused in.
Is it... I can't remember what system, but I think it's Warhammer. I could be wrong. But there's a system where orcs are one of the most powerful creatures just because they believe in things. So like they're like, my ships can fly, obviously. So their ships are flying. And that reminds me of that so much. It's like, oh, I'm so mad that you're going to burn right now. And as they point at you, you just blow up.
Yeah, that is Warhammer.
That is cool.
It's hilarious. They're such powerful, like, psychic race, but they don't really know it because they're not intelligent. So basically, they cobble together a machine that would not work for anyone else, but because they have faith that it's going to go, it'll go. And if they paint it red, it'll go faster because
well,
that's
it's
what they
funny
believe.
that you mentioned faith, because that's actually my favorite right now, is the clerics. I do have a soft spot for wizards. I do love that, but their constant amount of having to learn magic over the years typically makes it that they have to be really old, which is not as fun. I mean, I like playing an old dude as much as the next person, but, like, I like to be youthful. I'm young. I'm hip, yo. We're gonna cut that out. Oh boy.
Oh no, Noob's keeping that in, baby.
I know you will.
That's the episode title. I'm hip, yo.
But yeah, I like to have it be that my characters are more in a younger age bracket rather than in their 60s, 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So I like clerics, I've learned, because there's just like, hey, it's basically like, I'm gonna do what the warlock did, but I'm not gonna put it on paper. Like, it's very much just like, I'll work for you, guy, but you gotta give me some stuff to help me do what you want me to do. And then meanwhile, I'll do a little bit of stuff I want to do. But also, I'm doing what you want, so it's all good. Like, it's this weird mix of a lot of those different things where I'm like, I like that. And I think it lends itself to interesting roleplay possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Paladin's also pretty cool, especially Oathbreakers, because it's just like you've broken what you were supposed to do. But at this point, we're just covering all magic, so, you know. Kuo-toa are also pretty cool. Kuo-toa are going to be my myconoids, just so you guys know. I love Kuo-toa so much. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact I confused them with Sahuagin that one time. It's alright.
Yep. Yeah. That was episode 3. If you haven't listened to Space Jam yet, it comes out, or it came out already on September.
C-Jam. Space Jam came out a long time ago.
Yeah. So, Malcolm, there, good buddy, my cool hip friend over there.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
Alrighty.
Shall we roll?
Let's do it. See, that was like trying to be cool.
So it came across until you said I was trying. Because sometimes, like the orcs, you just have to believe it. So today,
you know, I was explaining, but anyway, let's get to them rolls.
So today I'll be rolling on the scenario table, and I'm rolling a very nice Wario-themed dice. It's hand painted, and it's got a little W on where the nat 20 would be, or where the 20 would be. It's yellow and purple, and it's a fun die.
Same old blue. I don't know what shape this is. I really should. Dice that I've been using all this time. But, you know, you haven't led me astray so far. I survived a dragon attack because of you. Yippee! And let's see.
On the scenario table, I rolled a 13.
And on the theme table, I rolled a 5. I don't even know how to say that, Noob. Noob sent us what it's actually pronounced as. Icosintrodon?
Icosahedron.
That one actually cut out, Noob. Icosahedron.
Oh man, 13 is brought to us by Molly once again. We love you, Molly, here. It's, you're invincible? Oh, invisible.
And number 5 is... Where are we?
It's number on 5 corner.
Oh, there it is. Deep in a Magical Forest.
You gonna say the name?
Oh, by Vectorin.
I was gonna say, he's like, I can't pronounce this one either.
No. It was a little behind the scenes is the fact that we actually tried to roll this very episode a while ago in one of our test episodes, but we goofed on it and with the recording, so we decided to cut it. Even though we were like 5 minutes in, something happened with recordings, and we wanted to keep it authentic, so we scrapped the episode. But now it's back. It survived. It was meant to be.
You know what's funny is I don't remember that at all, so it's brand new to me.
Yeah,
it was in our test episode. I don't remember what we even came up with for it.
Nope.
To be quite honest, it was like gone. It was our first ever recording, and some chicanery, nonsensical craziness happened.
Ned Chicanery. Shout out to the
Adventure Zone Amnesty.
Amnesty, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great character. We love you, McElroys. Come on our show, please.
I'm surprised you didn't die, to be perfectly honest. But let's get back to this forest. Deep in a magical forest.
So for you, what comes to mind when you hear this combination? What's the first thing? Of deep in a magical forest with you're invincible? Oh, invisible?
Myconoids.
Kuatoa.
Perfect. I'm on an orc theme for whatever reason, and just the you're invincible. Oh, invisible just sounds like an orc thing to me. Just like an orc starting off on his adventure, thinking he's like gonna win everything. He's overempowered, but in reality, no one ever sees him because he's invisible.
He was gifted a wand of invisibility, and he thought invincibility. That's great.
I'm strong. Everyone's too afraid to talk to me. He's in like this bustling town. He's no one can see him. Oh my god.
No, I think of like the Predator, but like if he was socially inept. So it's just like the thing of like, oh, I'm stealthing so good right now. Like I'm gonna get him and pop out of nowhere, and I got him. And it's like, yeah, you can't beat me. And like everyone's so afraid. And it's like they're so afraid they don't even know what's coming for them. Like it's this whole thing. But
okay, so I think this could be like a quest you can give to your players of looking for this thief in the woods who's camping out in the woods. But in reality, it's just a kind-hearted orc who has been cursed with invisibility and who is doing just that. So maybe it's like a quest given to them on like their local adventuring guild or by the local lord or whatever. However your game is themed out here. I think that'd be a very fun adventure.
I like the idea of making this orc kind of like a Robin Hood type.
Yes.
Like the Robin Hood of the forest, where he is just like, he pops up and he's like, I am invincible. And they're like, what is that? And he's like, ha-ha! And like punches them. He doesn't ever have time to explain. No one has time to explain to him that he's invisible, not invincible. And so he just beats him up real quick and is like, yeah, I am invincible. And they're like, no, that's not what we're saying. Ow! Like,
the forest is haunted. Maybe since he's camping in here for so long, that's what made him invisible. But like, maybe he was just an adventurer that's gone missing into the forest, and some myconoids told him like, hey, if you eat this, you'll turn invisible. And he's like, oh, if I eat this, I get invincible. So he's eating these invisible mushrooms that keep getting him, but he's still trying to do good. Like he's still trying to. Yes. So anytime a traveler or a nobleman goes through this forest, he is now trying to protect the forest or protect the myconoids that saved his life. Because it could just be like they're a small toad-esque myconoid that's very small. So it could be something like that, maybe.
I like that. I like the idea of him using... So it's not a permanent invisibility. It's the thing where he powers up to think he's becoming invincible, but he's becoming invisible each time, so they don't see him, but he thinks he's just too strong. Like...
Yeah, I think that... So, like, anytime the tax collector comes into the forest, he starts, beating him up, because he's like, oh, you're trying to tax the myconoid village, or you're taxing the nice village out of the forest here. And so, like, they're going tax-free because this guy can't come through, so maybe he hires the party, and then the party, if the mushrooms or whatever he's eating that turns him invisible fades, they can get glimpses of him, and you can make it like, oh, it's like the spirit of the forest type thing, and then they realize it, and then you have one character who's going to eat one of the mushrooms, and then you're like, oh yeah, he disappears in front of your eyes.
And you would definitely be able to have your ranger kind of go and look. Like, this isn't a spirit of the forest; these are orc tracks, and you get to have some nice survival
spirits
rolls.
Can be orcs. Trying to make ghosts have to be a certain way.
So are these myconids, are they like tricking this orc? Using the orc to kind of avoid paying taxes? Which
I think
somehow these fungus people are part of the tax structure.
Yeah, I think some of them are, but I think there has to be at least one or two that are actually caring for him. But I think most of them are just like, oh, if we keep this idiot around, we won't have to do this anymore.
I kind of like the idea of the forest being nice people. And it just being a thing of like, they were very much, like, we helped this guy, and this guy's just like, how do I repay you? And they're like, oh, if we could have an orc on our side, that's pretty cool. And it just being a thing of, not necessarily, like, it is my brain automatically goes to Godzilla, like, the thing of, like, maybe he originally set out to, like, get whatever from the Myconoids or, like, destroy the forest or whatever, and then, like, got injured during that act, and then now he's like, this forest has saved me. I must protect the forest. Like, it's a thing now where it's like, oh, he's on their side. Do not mess with the Myconoids. They're just trying to live their peaceful life. And that could be his whole message or his whole thing is just be like, hey, I'm not really the bad guy here. I'm just protecting the Myconoids in the forest. The people who come in. He's the Lorax. He's just like, yo, I speak for the trees. Like, get out of my forest. Like, that kind of thing where it's very much like you're doing more harm here than good. And it can be a thing where either the forest is where certain people draw their power from, or certain people go picking for different things. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, no, you can't. I don't want you to disrupt how this forest is. And maybe if you want to make him more villainous, you can make him a little too legalistic about it, where it's like not a flower out of place type thing. Or if you want to have it be more of a understandable, easier resolution, you can have it just be that he's like, no, I'm doing this. And you can have your party explain, oh, we're not trying to harm the forest. And he'll be like, oh, you want some mushrooms? And
but you stepped on that twig 2 miles east of here, so... Are you?
You snap twig, I snap you.
I like that. You snap twig, I snap you.
This kind of reminds me of the scene from Lord of the Rings, where the forest is all being damaged by the orcs, and the forest kind of rebels and fights them. So this could be a similar scenario where it's, rather than having like Ents and Treants being the things that fight back, it's these mushrooms that are kind of recruiting an orc to go and fight for them because they can't.
Oh, it's kind of like a people's champion thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. We'll make a nice, easygoing adventure for your party. No high stakes for Malcolm.
Yeah.
Just nice and calm.
I was about to say, how are we going to add world-ending stakes, boys? You guys do know that I literally put world-ending stakes as a theme that we can now roll for. To be clear, it is not world-ending stakes, it's world-ending steaks. So giant pieces of meat that are going to end the world is a theme that we'll eventually get to.
Nice.
You know, this also, though, reminds me, or brings my brain to a Pokemon-themed quest, because isn't... Paris and Parasect taken over by a parasite?
Yeah.
So I think you could easily meld this into like a Verdian Forest type of situation where Weedles are starting to getting taken over by it and other Pokemon. I know, David, you're into you run a Pokemon game, right?
Yeah.
So for those who don't do Dungeons and Dragons, you can flavor it this way as well, if you want.
This feels too wrapped up. What kind of encounters can we throw in here?
So I guess why is the party getting involved?
I think it's got to be
hired by the orcs.
I think it's got to be that whatever people hire them have had people go disappearing in this forest, which the orc has been taking out in whatever way you want. It can be killed, it can be just throwing them out, or disappearing them, but it's got to be a thing of, nobody comes out from the forest, and everyone's starting to go, hey, it didn't used to be like that. What's going on? So I think making it kind of outwardly a haunted forest, and then inwardly being like, oh, it's just it's a protective orc who's very... Also, I think that'd be a fun contrast. You go out with, the very, scary forest, and you get inside, and it's like, stand back, cretin, and tell me what exactly you're doing in my forest. And you're like,
who said that?
Who's saying that? So yeah, you have that kind of, strangeness happening. I feel like you can do a lot of weird stuff with this one.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you want to dip into something a little on the creepier side, this orc could be, or the myconids could be like a invasive species. And so you have everything in the forest being kind of taken over by this fungus and mind controlled.
Oh, that would be very interesting to play with.
And so the orc is unknowingly protecting it and letting it spread. And he's catching people. He's not killing them because he thinks that's the right thing. And he's bringing them into these mushrooms. And they're getting infected.
Oh, so it's like a cult of the mushrooms? This is very... Not Night of the Living Dead. What's that movie called? The one with the people that screech.
Bird Box?
No. It's an old movie.
I do not know.
I'm gonna think of it. They're like plants. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I literally had to look up Screeching People horror movie. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is the movie. And in it, it's very much like you don't know who's taken over. So if you want to do it even creepier, you can have people coming back from the forest, but then just be like, you should go to the forest. It's a lovely place to be. And then like, that's it. That's all they ever talk about. And it's like, hey, Jerry, you alright? Yeah, I'm okay, but you should go to the forest. It's a lovely place to be. Like, you just have that kind of Coulson, it's a wonderful place type thing where you're like, what happened to you in there? Nothing happened in the forest, except I had a lovely time. You should go there. It's a lovely place to be. And it's just like, oh man. And people can finally be like, we're sending you into the forest? Because we don't know what's going on there? And, oh, look, yum, some world-ending steaks right here. We could have a setup where it can be that...
It just grows.
You have a very Night of the Living Dead approach here, where everyone can come together and have this kind of thing where, oh my gosh, you don't realize how many people were taken into the forest until the myconoids call for the thing. Also, I think there is a villainous version of myconoids. I know myconoids are a thing, but I was pretty sure...
I think, what if the orc is himself infected and he's doing all of this because they're controlling his mind? So what if they are, taking over the forest slowly but surely, and say they needed the muscle? So like whenever like you're fighting the orc at the end, you can look on his back and he has like all of these mushrooms growing out of his back as he's been taken over. And that's why he thinks he's invincible, but in reality, it's invisible to him that he's just being used.
I like that, but my only thought on why I wouldn't do it was because I thought it would be more interesting to have him be just ignorant, and then to have it later on revealed to him that it's like, no, you're causing all this. Because then you also get a fun NPC who's like, oh god, I have to fix this. This is all my fault. I was led astray by these things, and we gotta team up, and he got one person. Plus, if you wanted to, you could then have it be that they get him eventually and take him when he confronts them about this and be like, is this true? And they'll be like, mushroom him. And they're like, ah! And they'll be like, oh, look, I'm loving the forest right now. It's a lovely place to be. As he turns towards you, and you're like, no! But yeah, that's my thought on it. I don't know if... But that could also lead to some fun things like an increased intelligence of this orc to a percent, or in a way.
I really like the idea of the dumb orc. And I was just looking up, you mentioned that there was like an evil version of myconids. Mm-hmm. There's these
I'm trying to find
things called Vegepikmis. And they're also known as moldies, moldfolk, or moldmen. And basically, they're fungus creatures that live in dark forests or underground, hunting for sustenance and spreading the spores from which they reproduce. They were spawned from dead humanoids or giants, or beasts that were killed by a type of mold commonly known as russet mold. These things are perfect for the creepy version.
Yep.
Oh, definitely.
100%.
And I think we're going with the creepy version for sake of continuing this episode longer. Because the other one, though interesting, wraps up pretty quickly, throw in some knights, a few other people, and you're good to go.
So, this dumb orc just thinks he's working for these nice little myconids in the forest.
Yeah, you could have it be that he heard of myconids, so he's like, oh, you're myconids! And they're like,
sure.
Yes, sure. You could say that. from a certain point of view. So I like this. We're really good at making creepy campaigns. I don't know what that says about us. We're good at world-ending stakes and creepy campaigns. So, also, thank you, David, for sharing the link so I can look at the Vegepikmin some more.
They look terrifying.
They are like alien in design, and that is beautiful. I love it, honestly. I need to use these in a campaign. But yeah, I think that this would work really well to have these guys. What are you thinking else, David, with that? Because it was real good.
So I think it is definitely that. So someone was fighting these things, and they kind of tricked the orc to help them. And then realized that rather than just turning the orc into some of them, he's doing really good invisible kind of dragging bodies in that he thinks are being restrained or taken to jail that they're able to kind of reproduce with. Yeah.
We have sent them somewhere where they'll no longer be of issue to us.
Oh, I think it's better if you just say, we sent them home. It's okay now. And he's like, oh, great. But when they really mean home, they're just like, there's a giant mold pit where they're just tossing dead bodies. Or that reminds me of, if you want, Dungeons and Daddies, they have an episode where there's an orgy pit, and then right next to it is a death pit. It's like a combat pit next to it, and then next to it is like the orgy pit. That could just be it. It's just like it's the dead pit, and then the kids' nursery next door.
Well, it depends on how you want to do it, because if you want to seed it in advance, pun only somewhat intended, you will have them meet people within the town who have, like, again, the possession of it. If you want to have it just be like there's tons of dead bodies, or you could have it be that the infection doesn't always take, which will be an interesting thing as well, and then they're like, sustenance for the future, and they, like, throw you in the pit then. So you could have it be that it's a constitution save, so that some characters can make it. That can be your thing of if you want people to live and you're not sure how, you can do it that way. You can treat this kind of like how mind flayers treat, making mind flayers, which is they have little tadpoles that they put that get into your brain that eventually turn you into a form of mind flayer. So you could do something similar with this where it takes time to happen, but once it does, you become like, fully that. There is no reversing the process. So you have a chance, you have time to reverse the process, but of course no one's going to know that going in. How much time is up to you? I'd recommend like half a day or so, and then you just have it be that it's a thing with that. So you could have it be where it's like, oh, okay, cool, we're going to go into the forest, and those guys are acting weird. When you walk out, and it's like, those things are now officially like full-on it's
Vegepikmin.
Vegepikmin, that's such a weird phrase. Yeah. But yeah, so you could have that happen.
So the way that they kind of spread is they create these spores of russet mold. Russet mold is a hazard that 5e has. Basically, if you save against russet mold, then it doesn't really damage you. But failing, you take, I think, con damage. And if it kills you, then from your corpse spawn more of these creatures.
Oh, it's got to be, that's what the pit is then. The pit's just full of that mold, and they just throw you in.
You know, you just see them like the body tied up, and you have like 20 of these Vegepikmins just, you know. It reminds me of Pikmin a lot, too, that game. Vegepikmin.
You traumatized a lot of Nintendo players right then. But yeah, you have it where they like ritualistically like throw them in, and they're like, another one of us, and then they're like, oh, and then they go back to doing whatever. That makes me wonder, what do these things do in their downtime, or are they just into taking over the world?
That's a good question.
Let's click and find out.
I think they just stay in the forest. I don't think they're trying to take over the world. They don't know what's else outside of this deep, dark forest. That's their world.
I like that. And then you can also have it be they're kind of choking out everything inside of it. Like, that can be another way if you want to introduce, if you're like, my party's not going to care that a bunch of people are saying weird stuff, have a bunch of forest animals walk out of the forest.
Covered in the
and be problems that way.
Yeah. And basically,
because that way you can have it be they fight something different and kind of crazy.
Their culture is there a bunch of tribal units, They're territorial and kind of dumb, but they're centered around the idea of harvesting food and spreading. So, like, you're venerated in the tribe if you're spreading this mold. And if you don't, if you choose to not, you're a pariah of the society. So they're fully focused on just spreading the mold and making more of themselves.
Now, I personally think this is one where we should not have a redeemable villain amongst the crew. I think it's more fun if you just deal with a tribe of Vegepikmin. Mm-hmm. God, eventually. Where they just kind of all come together, throw you into a pit, you become the next thing for them. Like, you're either food or you're not. Like, it's very much that thing of, like, if it comes to the forest, we're going to take it. It's almost animalistic, but a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting to have that. Any thoughts, Sam, on that?
Oh, I think that's great. I think that's a good way to use them. Yeah, I don't think we really need, you're not going to go and burn down most parties aren't going to go down and burn down this forest. So I think the goal here is just to get the orc away because he's the muscle. And either if he meets his end in the pit, if you really want to get creepy with it, if your adventurers do decide to wipe out this tribe, and if they go looking into the pit, you can show that there's maybe other quote unquote champions that they had. So you go down and you see inside of this pit is like 5 bodies all having leather armor. You see some experienced battle wounds on them, or what have you, adventuring gear on them is kind of what I was trying to say, but my brain wouldn't. And then you can thread the seed that they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
They may not be the smartest, but they know that if they can get someone strong enough to work for them, they can spread a lot more mold. And maybe he is infected with the mold, and they use him, so they don't give him a potent amount of it, but they give him enough to where, he spreads around the forest. It's like they put it on the bottom of his boots every time he goes to sleep. He's running with it, on his sword and stuff. So eventually it finally gets to him and he dies of it. And then they pick up his body, throw him into the pit, and they wait for a new muscle man to come through, kind of like Boxer in Animal House.
And each time they taunt them, or they prompt them with, "We can make you invisible, or we can make you invincible if you agree to do this for us."
Yeah. Oh, I would love...
and that
yes.
could be like the chieftain of the tribe here, who's either like a cleric or some other kind of magic user who's just casting greater invisibility occasionally.
I like the idea of... I know it's tweaking our theme a little bit, but to say immortal instead of invincible, because in that way it's not a lie. You're not dead, you just became something else that is useful to us. That you're not really dead. You're just not living now.
That's good.
And in D&D, that is a weird thing where there is a difference.
Yeah, I think they could tweak it to whatever the adventure they choose wants. So if one wants, you want this gold, and if the chieftain is a powerful mage or has access to magic, he can create a giant illusion of gold or something like that. But say this orc that we're playing with, the Robin Hood, he wants to be invincible. And they're like, yes, we can make you invisible. And he only hears invincible. Mm-hmm. So that's where the confusion comes from. So he's invisible, and he's going in and he's fighting anyone and everyone. And they're not stopping him because don't see him ever coming. So he keeps thinking that he's invincible when really, he's invisible.
That's great.
And at that point, what's the difference?
Right. So you can have, say your party's level 5, make this guy level 9 or level 10, and he's just a trustworthy guy taking, what if the Myconoids or the Vegepixie put in a request at the local adventuring tavern looking for protection, meet us at this point, and he just never comes back? Because now he's under their control.
That's good.
I like that.
So they also, you become a Vegepikmin if it's from a bipedal humanoid that dies. But if it's something with 4 legs and it dies, it becomes a thorny, which is basically the pet that they have. that are even less intelligent, but much more violent. So you could throw some of those at your party as well.
This is just stupid predators.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, thinking of the Predator from the Predator movies. I don't know what else you can call them. Like, they have an official alien name, but I never remember it. But, yeah, it's like they're perfect hunters. They don't really show themselves. They have pets that they can send out. So you can just, like, take some stuff from that. They're tribalistic by nature, very full of honor and the concept of you don't abandon the tribe. So it's like you can take a lot of that kind of mentality and kind of push it here for these monsters and have them be a lot more frightening. What else are we thinking, guys? Because I'll admit my tanks are a little empty on this one.
I've pulled up the stats for Russet Mold, and it's kind of terrifying. It's only CR half, which I don't think is right. It's got AC 8, 9 hit points, which pretty easy to kill. It's immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, as well as cold, fire, necrotic, poison, and psychic damage in all conditions. So I don't...
Wait, immune?
So acid is basically the only thing to damage it. And it only has one attack, and that's an area attack where it just puffs out spores in a 5-foot radius. And you need to make a DC 12 con save, or take 2d6 poison damage each turn. And then each turn you need to make that save again. If you die 24 hours later, you're transformed into a Vegepikmin commoner.
So what are the Vegepikmin hierarchies like?
It's basically just commoner and chiefs.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I think we got this one.
Oh, okay. Continuing on with that.
Oh.
The spores remain active
good.
in a dead creature's body. So if you're restored to life before you reanimate, you are still poisoned and continue taking poison damage.
Holy.
That's great. This is world-ending stakes.
Yeah. This is... Then, I mean, I gotta say, I think I really now like the stupid orc who's already infected.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what if they just keep bringing him back to life every time he dies, just so he can keep spreading the stuff around?
Yeah.
Like the chief.
Man,
just
the podcast can't even see how much I'm smiling right now at that. That's brilliant.
Like,
yes,
like,
Sam.
Oh my! What if your party attacks him, kills him because they're like the invisibility wears off, and then they're camping, and all of a sudden he's back, but he has like no idea who they are. Like it's just like a cycle for him.
You could have like the Michael Myers level, like get up, and it's like, what? How do you keep? Why won't you die? And it's just like, well, you could have it be the first time he's still talking and stuff, and then after that, it's just like full on just destruction of the people inside. And you're like, whoa, wait, what is this? Is this like an insta-kill mode? What is this? What do we do?
So, for the Vegepikmin, something that also is from their background, they have a really strong reverence for ancient relics and sacred objects. So, that could be something that's tied to this orc, is he's tied to this magical artifact that basically binds him here. So they haven't infected him, because each time he dies, this artifact brings him back to life. They've just now tricked this immortal orc, who is invincible and invisible, because they give him invincibility. Or invisibility.
What they could also do is, if you wanted to tie this in, because I always think of ways that people are gonna go, but how do I run this adventure when my campaign's off doing this? It's like, oh, they can hear about this great magical object. It's in the forest of such and such. And it's like, oh, the forest is haunted. Don't go there. And it's like, why didn't anyone tell us about that? And it's like, nobody knows. And a while ago, we sent some people in, never got anybody else out. Nobody comes out now. We don't know when that started happening, but it happened a while ago, and it's bad. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh. So you can do something with that.
It's like, well,
This
what's
is bad.
Going on?
Mm-hmm.
There was a town by the forest, but it's overgrown now.
Oh. Man, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Me too.
I think that just really throw your party off. Be like, what?
I also like the concept of the slow overgrowth of different areas, where it's like it's spreading over time. So the forest is going to get bigger and bigger. So maybe it's not just the orc at a certain point. depending on when you come across this in your campaign, world-ending stakes time. We have it be that you have different characters or people, maybe some can be recognizable if it's a forest near enough by, where you have people go, oh, hey, it's such and such. What happened to... And it's like, didn't you hear? The forest has new powers. I've gotten some new powers from the forest. I should show you. And it's like, I don't know about that.
So maybe it was like an entire tribe of orcs that were protecting this artifact that have slowly become infected. And even though they respawn when they die, they don't really know their history anymore because they've kind of been taken over by these fungus.
To throw a little bit more out there, maybe it's that they stole this artifact, either from their original chieftain and people or not, or from somebody else, and then ran into the forest to hide, and that's just where this stuff has gotten them. You can add some effects to, I know it's not in there and you don't really need it, but obviously you could add some paranoia or some different things where you could have them kind of second guess each other and different stuff happen. Make it more like The Thing, which is a horror movie I haven't seen but know so much about through cultural osmosis. But yeah, make it more of like a who can you trust situation, and you can even do that with your party at a certain point. You have a big enough party, mm-hmm. You come in there and you're like, hey, wait a minute, how do I know I can trust you? Wait, you were supposed to have the item, we got it from the creatures, right? So we're good to go. And it's like, no, you were supposed to have the item. And it's like, no. So you could have different stuff happen where that's a factor where it's like, you get kind of freaked out by just being in this forest. And that could be kind of like a layer action type thing of, it's like mazes. So I don't know if I've said this before on this podcast, but there is a concept for mazes that I love, which is that you roll a d6 in a maze. So you don't have to draw a maze. You just roll a d6. On a 6, they move to a different spot. Anywhere else, it takes you to somewhere else, and you only get out if you keep rolling the highest number or lowest number. So you either roll a 6 or a 1, and you move forward in those ways, or you have what's connected to what, so you just put on a table what different encounters are. So if they hit a 5 and you don't have 5 be your exit encounter, you're just like, oh, well, then you just go over this way. And you can have people get lost and separated very easily that way. And that's also horrifying and fun to do. So
that's fun. This just reminded me of a horror movie from 2008. It's called The Ruins. And the plot of that is kind of similar to what we've done here, where basically this group of Americans travel down to Mexico and they climb up onto this like pyramid. And as they try to get off, some of the locals shoot them and prevent them from leaving the pyramid, because inside this pyramid, there's this plant that slowly grows inside of you, takes you over, and is infectious. It's very similar to what we've done here. And the like tell to see that you've been infected is if you look in someone's eyes, you can see some kind of plant life moving in the whites of their eyes. And so that could be what the party looks for when they're trying to figure out who's actually infected or who they can trust.
Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to use that, because you want to know who is and who's not infected in this new town, or whoever is already been captured.
Yeah, I like that, and that way you have it be kind of a thing where it's not super clear. You can make that a high AC. I would say probably about 18 or so to see. Because if you look at people's eyes, you often don't see like little things happening. You don't see like every little vein and stuff. And I picture plant life being kind of small if it's in your eye. My foot fell asleep.
I mean, it's like spores from these fungus, so it can grow at any size.
So yeah, I think that's good.
I think we've hit a good point. We can move on to our recap and synopsis.
I believe I'm on synopsis this time, right?
Yes. So while you're preparing that, I'll go over the review or recap. I'll get that word right one day. Synopsis I'm fine with. The made up word. So
no, it's totally real. We didn't make that up. What?
So what we've come up with is your party kind of finds their way to a forest side town and learn that deep in the forest, there's this fungus that's been slowly growing. They have basically a whole tribe of orcs at their beck and call that are somehow immune or resistant to the infection, that are invisible and kind of ranging through the forest, bringing people deeper in. And it's up to your party to kind of find the source of this fungal infection and stave it off, while also potentially saving this orc tribe from the horrible fate where they've been tied kind of as servants to the Vegepikmin, these mold men creatures that are tribal and trying to spread their way and eat everything that they can out of the forest. I think that's pretty much what we've come to.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about how to destroy the Vegepikmin, but that's fine. They'll figure it out.
So they're weak to acid, and you can also use alcohol.
The tavern's going to be the last safe place, boy.
So we get to have a real Shaun of the Dead moment and head to the...
I was about to say, go over, have a pint, and wait for it all to blow over. I think that's at World's End, actually.
Well, that's Shaun of the Dead. It might also be
good. It's part of his trilogy of movies, because he did 3 that are, like, interconnected.
Yeah. The Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah. Anyway, let's stretch these DM muscles here. Your party approaches a person who's asked for their help. And they walk up to them, and they say, "Please, I don't know what's happening, and everyone in this town's acting like it's all been normal, but things have not been normal. Don't believe them. It's not been what they say it is. Things aren't good, and I'm afraid. I don't know where my husband's gone, I don't know where my son is gone, and I don't know where our neighbors are. But every time they come over, it's not them. I swear it's not them. Something's wrong here." And after you finish speaking with this distraught wife, you go over and you can see the husband close by, standing there, smiling. He looks towards you assuredly and says, "Oh, hey, have y'all checked out the forest? It sure is a lovely day. You should see what's inside there. I think you're really gonna like it." And scene. This is a very small synopsis, but there's so many different ways to describe the horrors that would be inside the forest. And also, I really wanted to have the one person say the line. So, there is that.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I think this will be a fun use of myconoids, and I just think it's going to be it's a nice adventure, and we would love to hear the stories about it with using the hashtag FITG or FITGD&D on Twitter, or join us on Discord, where you can always come by and check out the Hive. We're here to help. That's going to be on the Twitter. There's a link right there for you. All nice and pinned. So with that, thanks for listening to Filling in the Gap Rerolled. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Speaking of today, our theme music is Today by Linby off their album Drive. If you like it, you can hear more from them at linby.bandcamp.com or their actual play podcast Bombarded. Both are great, and we highly encourage you all to check them out. Side note, if you'd also like to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would be great as well. We very much appreciate it, as we are trying to grow and reach more struggling DMs or players out there. You can find all of us on Twitter. I am at DMMambo5.
You can find me at Daedra18, that is DAEDRA18.
You can find me at The Ruler of Rhyme.
And the show's handle is FITGD&D. We also have a Discord server, which should be attached to our Twitter. If not, we'll put it there, because we are always looking for new themes and scenarios to add to our list, and we'd love some new Hive Mind members. Last note of this outro is that the show is edited by our audio gremlin, Andrew. You can follow them at xnubinator912x and interact with all of us. We are proud to be a Obtuse Audio Studios podcast, and you can learn more about them at obtuseaudio.com. And again, I am coming to you asking you to give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes so we can slowly take over the world. Or, I don't know, climb the charts. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
What's in your thoughts? Oh, what's in your mind? What fills your head and what leaves it behind? It's too much today. It's too much today.
Obtuse Audio.